So a 2-1 win. What are your thoughts on the game?
Wet. And look, I thought we thoroughly deserved to win that game. I felt really we probably should have been at least a couple of goals ahead before we obviously then missed a penalty. And then you go and concede a penalty. But then, you know, that response that we've seen so many times in recent weeks was there. We got ourselves back level through the third penalty of the game. And then, to be fair, I felt from then till half time, I felt like every time we went forward, we looked like we could score. But we were a little bit too loose. Our structure behind the ball wasn't as good as it needed to be, and that then led to them also looking threatening on the break. And the game was just far too open, probably from both teams' perspectives. But second half, it was just about just having that little bit more structure. We knew that the pitch, with the amount of rain, that it was deteriorating and becoming even more difficult for the players to play on. And it was just about being organised, reducing the number of transitions that we allowed them to have against us, being a little bit more organised in our shape through the middle of the pitch, and when we turned it over, just being ruthless really. And that obviously led to us getting the second goal, which proved to be the winner. And you know, I think credit to particularly my players, but I think to their players as well, and also to the referee, because I felt the conditions were really, really difficult. The pitch was very, very wet, and there was times where the ball wasn't travelling. It was, you know, lads are trying to run with the ball and it's getting stuck under the feet. But I felt the referee managed it and refereed it very well, in fairness to him. And I thought it was a very committed and honest performance by both sets of players, and I felt we certainly edged it and deserved the 3 points, and delighted.
Yeah, as you say, conditions deteriorated throughout the day, and it certainly seemed like we adapted to them slightly better than Gateshead did, certainly in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, both us and Gateshead, you know, we're both, you know, footballing teams. You know, we want to get the ball down, we want to try and play through teams and round teams, and probably that like back to front approach isn't something that either team attempts as often as maybe some of the other teams in the league. But the way that the pitch, you know, just continued to hold water and deteriorate, it just made that free flowing, fluid kind of football difficult at times for both sides. And it was about the players probably, you know, figuring out which parts of the pitch were conducive to you trying to do that, and which parts of the pitch were holding the most water, and where you needed to maybe lift the ball or, you know, put the ball into the space and let lads get after it, and then pressing the ball and trying to force mistakes, and having good concentration and discipline to make, you know, minimal errors. And I felt that our players, you know, handled and managed that incredibly well, particularly in the second half. And as I've said a couple of times, I felt, you know, on the balance of play across the 90 minutes, I felt that we thoroughly deserved to win that game.
Of course, obviously, just looking at that first half, very much a tale of 3 penalties.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you miss it, you're thinking, you know, here we go again. And then you go behind and you're just thinking, it's like deja vu all over again, this. But then obviously we got the third penalty, and Jay Turner-Cook slotted it away, and you know, it's back level pegging, and it's game on again. So yeah, I mean, listen, I think all you really cry out for as manager is you want the referee to be consistent, and I think when he's given the first, he's probably then got to give the other 2, you know, and maybe all of them are soft, but he's given them all, and you know, credit to him for that.
Of course, obviously the second half got the reaction we wanted, got off to a flyer, and then David Cowell with the winner.
Yeah, we felt that there was a few times in the first half where, as I alluded to before, we were a little bit open at times. You know, when they build out from the back and they push their full-backs high and they invert the wide players, they can overload you in them central areas. And there was just a few times where the wide players were playing in them pockets of space behind Jay Turner-Cook and Cody, and they were, you know, dragging our full-backs into the middle of the park, and that was opening up channels on the outside, or, you know, our full-backs were committing to the lads on the outside, and they were getting runners between us. So we just needed to be we just needed to be better structured in the second half, and I felt we were. I felt that the position of our fullbacks when the ball was on the opposite side of the pitch to just come into the middle of the park and give us that extra bit of structure behind the ball was better than it was in the first half. That prevented them the opportunities to hurt us on transition, and in actual fact it enabled us to sustain attacks at times, and it just highlights the importance of organisation, not just when you haven't got the ball, but when you've got the ball. You know, you're sometimes in football at your most vulnerable when you're attacking and when you've got possession, because you're more expansive, and it is important that players, you know, recognise where they need to be structurally, because transitions are such a massive part of the game now, and particularly against, you know, Gateshead here today, that front three of Chapman and Kane, Adam and Hurst. You know, they're a real threat on transition, and I felt we managed that a lot better in the second half, and that certainly contributed to us going on and winning the game.
Of course, obviously a bit of game management towards the end to see it out, but it's another good result against Gateshead.
Yeah, and everybody's been, you know, reminding me all week that we've got such a great record against Gateshead. So yeah, you know, it's great that we've continued that run. But you know what's gone on in the past, it doesn't really bother me. It's about the here and the now, and you know, I think coming into this game today, we've lost 2 of our last 8 outside of the first 2 games of the season, and that was to Forest Green and Southend, who are probably both going to be in the top 3 or 4 teams. You know, we've lost 1 in our last 6 games, which was to Southend, but we just had a few draws, you know, a couple of draws in there, which has probably halted our progress a little bit. So we know how important it is at any time of the season to win games, but I feel like probably outside of that Southend game, I feel like the performance levels in the main have been pretty good, and you know, worthy of us probably having a few more points on the board. But you know, we are where we are, and today it was just about coming up here, and you know, regardless of the history and the record against these in the past, it was about, you know, the current group of players that we've got, and you know, the team that we're trying to become now, and coming here and trying to win the game as we do every game we go into. And I'm really, really delighted for the players and the supporters as well. You know, the supporters were brilliant today. It would have been really easy for them to stay at home given the weather, but they've obviously made the journey up the A1 and cheered the team on, and I'm just pleased for everybody really that we're sending them all home with 3 points.
Of course, in the first half as well, we made the early change with Dylan Crowe. Was that an injury-related change? Yeah,
unfortunately, yeah. He just felt his groin again. So we're going to have to see how that settles down. Just so disappointed for him, because you know, he came back in last week, did great for 75 minutes. He's trained brilliantly all week, and then obviously he's just felt it then. So we'll have to assess it probably on Monday morning, just give it 24, 48 hours to settle down and just see where he is. But yeah, disappointed for him. But I have to say, you know, this win today, it was a real collective effort. You know, we obviously made and used 5 of the 7 substitutes. Cookie's come on early and played at fullback and done great. You know, lads then coming into the game a little bit later on. It was a real collective effort, and that's why you need a squad. You know, that's why you can't just be reliant on 11, 12 players. You need depth, and you need quality, and you need a good group of honest lads who all recognise that, you know, whilst they might not be starting games at any given moment, they might be thrust into action, and they've got to be ready to go. And everybody who's come on the pitch today was, and every single one of them, you know, to a man, has contributed in getting a big 3 points for us.
And of course, chance to back it up nice and quickly with the midweek match on Wednesday night away at Morham. Yeah,
I mean, you know, what a game now for us to look forward to. I think somebody just told me then that they went 3-0 up, got pegged back to 3 each, and then won it late on. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's just what I've been told as I was heading down here. So, you know, game of basketball by you know, looking at it from afar. But look, they're a big club, aren't they, at the level, and they're probably trying to find their feet with the new manager in there, and obviously all the uncertainty around the future of the club in the pre-season. So, You know, they're probably showing signs of getting stronger week by week, and it's going to be a difficult game, as is every game when you go away from home. But it's good for us to be going there with that confidence off the back of, you know, a good performance, 3 points, and hopefully now we can go there and back it up.
Thank you.